Welcome to Conversation with Senator Michael Moore. My name is Kevin Byrne. Senator Moore is our state senator who represents the 2nd Worcester District, which encompasses Shrewsbury. And it's 38,000 residents and a few other places around central Massachusetts.
I was just going to test you to see if you remember, see if you know what communities I represent.
Well, I can't now because you've been redistricted, and now I don't know. You have Leicester or something now at this stage. In any event, Senator, here we are again. You know, every time I say that, I was thinking that the other day. I said, okay, we do this little routine about I introduce you and that sort of stuff. Shrewsbury has 38,000 residents. 38,000, 142 or something like that. When Virginia and I and 2 children moved to Shrewsbury in 1967, I'm going to check this out. It was either 17 or 18,000 people who lived in this pretty little community in which there was Route 9 and Spags and a lot of people who lived down at the lake that were called Lake Rats because they were all Italians. That didn't have, I don't mean that in a demeaning sort of way. Everybody says, oh, but you're a lake rat. And they used to say it themselves. And Elmer Circle was half paved and half dirt. It's absolutely fascinating. To me, probably to absolutely nobody else, including you. How long have you lived in Millbury? You've been in Millbury for ages, weren't you?
Basically my entire life.
Your whole life?
Yeah.
Born and raised in
Yep.
Millbury? Where'd you go to grammar school?
Well, actually, do you know where this, the supermarket is in town? The Gretti's.
In Millbury?
In Millbury Gretti's
No,
Market.
the only thing I know about Millbury is how to get to the movie theater at the top of the hill.
Well, there's this little, if you look at,
Oh,
go to
downtown.
Gretti's.
You're talking about downtown
Millbury,
Millbury,
there's
right.
Gretti's Supermarket.
Yeah.
And right behind it is it's now an antique building, old brick building.
Yeah.
You can tell it's a schoolhouse.
It was a schoolhouse?
It's a
You
school.
went to an old brick schoolhouse.
I went to, so I went there for the first through the 2nd or 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And then I moved
Then
to
you had juvenile detention for a
the
couple
juvenile
of years
detention.
and probation.
But that one little building,
Yeah.
the teacher that we had there, my father had, my older sister had, my brother had, and I had.
Oh my God.
And
Oh, you are generational in Millbury, huh?
yeah, yeah.
Son of a gun.
And then actually, so then I went to Elmwood. Then we get this other the new schools.
Where'd
But
you go to high school?
Millbury High.
Millbury High.
But now in high
Whose
school,
team is called the
Woolies.
Woolies.
But in high school, my daughter's senior year, I'm bringing her in, I thought the first or second day, and she ended up having the same homeroom teacher that I had.
Glory be to God.
Yeah, so it's kind of, one of those things. My father and my brother and we all had the same teacher. I was like, oh, this is kind of funny.
That is so
But then,
funny. What's the population of Millbury?
Millbury's a
Which
little,
is one of your communities, by the way. One of the 7 communities.
little over 13,000 right now.
13,000. Is that, they haven't grown that greatly, have
Oh,
they?
no, it
Have they?
has. Yeah, I think when I first got on the Board of Selectmen, we were close.
Well, if you were in an old brick schoolhouse, it was probably 40 or 50 people in town, wasn't it?
Well, that time, but when I got on the board, I think it was like 11,000 people.
When you got on what board?
The Board of Selectmen in Millbury.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's grown.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, this is the history that we've never talked about with Senator Michael Moore.
Yeah, a little.
Here
And
we
we
are.
used to ride our bike to the center of town, and we had a bowling alley, movie theater, clothing stores,
Yeah, never heard of
restaurants, little ice cream parlors, and
You
then
know-
then for a while everything shut down and kind of the economy just kind of went the
Well,
other way.
there were factories in Millbury, weren't
Oh
there?
yeah, well that's
A lot of mills.
yeah, that's what became Millbury.
Right.
And
Ah.
Millbury actually separated from the town of Sutton.
Good thinking, Kevin. All right.
Millbury was part of Sutton, and we were the
And then
town.
a lot of those mills went south. Or,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, south either under or to the south.
Yeah, so we actually, Millbury separated because Millbury was more the industrial part of the town.
Gotcha.
And when we separated from Sutton was really the more rural farm
Oh,
community.
right. Okay. All right.
So, yeah.
That was the suburbs of Millbury.
Yeah,
Son of a gun. That's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, my father used to tell me that they used to talk about the stories that when they were, the Blackstone River, which goes right through
Sure.
the center of town,
Right.
that how when he was a kid they could swim in that
Sure.
river. And then over the years, as they got older, the mills, that there were
They-
days
they
that
dirtied it up
they
just
would
a bit.
completely change color. Whatever dye was coming out of the factory, that's what you would see coming out of the.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing how things have changed.
Yeah.
Speaking of changing, the last time we did one of these conversations with Senator Michael Moore, I'm Kevin Byrne and that's him, was mid-August of this year, okay? We did stay in 2022, okay? I watched it, believe it or not, we were saying just before we started, I watched it last night. I taped them. I mean, they recorded and
Yep.
then they flip over onto my recordings that you keep, like I do all the time. Usually for football games that I don't want to watch it at 11:45 at night, okay? And we were talking about, I had just come home from Cape Cod. You had just done a golf tournament,
Okay.
and you were going to meet the people and yell at them for ruining Lake Quinsigamon.
Oh, when they had the sewer
with
spill.
The sewer thing
Yeah.
exploded or did
Yep.
whatever. And I had talked about, there was a drought down at the Cape and it was terribly hot. And on our way home, we had a deluge of rain and all of that sort of good. The deluge of rain probably is what blew up the sewer plant or wherever it was that flowed into Lake Quinsigamon,
yeah, yep.
right, for a period of time. But can you imagine? And you know another thing too, why is it so long? You were running for election. You did not have an opponent,
Nope.
okay, fortunately for you, in the primary or in the final one anyway. But we talked about it in August. You were still out campaigning like crazy. I mean, you were around doing everything as you have done for the 560 years that you've been down in this Senate. For
Well,
God's
when I
sake.
first
You never stop.
I first got elected, I never wanted to be one of the elected officials that people could come back and say, oh, we only see you during an election.
Sure, Harold Donahue,
Oh, that-
Congressman.
No, I never wanted that to be said, so I try to get out there and
You
I try
did
to.
it, and you keep doing it all over the place. But in any event, you were out campaigning, and you're helping other people as well. I mean, you were going around to other people who were running for office and all that sort of stuff. So that would have been September that the primary was, and then between September and November, it was the same thing. We were all talking about how much of an explosive lead that Moira
Haley
was
had.
going to have.
So I
which
do-
of course, you did.
I do have to fess up, though, that after the primary,
Yeah,
I went to Europe for a couple of weeks.
I know. I heard about that. No, you actually told me about that. You were
Yeah.
going to do it, but I didn't know when it was.
It was right after.
Because you guys closed up the end of July. When I say you guys, I'm talking about the 40 state senators and
Yep.
House of Representatives, 160 of them. You all went home. Well, you didn't go home, but
Right.
you
And,
know
we, and
what
we,
I'm
and when we left some
All right, in
unfinished
3
business.
sentences or less, what cities did you go to? Where did you land?
Rome, Amalfi Coast, Florence, Venice, Milan, then Zurich, Luzerne, and then to Paris.
Oh my God, oh my, how long?
About 15, 14 days.
Wow.
I'd never gone on, I'd never taken a vacation that long before.
I was going to say, did you get one of those international phones?
Yeah,
Every
well,
time
actually-
we went, we used to always in those days we used to rent them, okay, and they never worked.
So actually, what we did do is we did the Airbnb. So when we flew into Rome, we had it for 2 days. And then while we were there,
Were you with a group or were you
No,
just whoever?
yeah,
Okay, good, good for you.
yeah. So
Of all of them, quickly, best place you went?
I liked Luzerne and Zurich,
Luzerne.
Switzerland.
Wow, never been to Switzerland. I've never gone.
Well, actually, no. Something I will say, mate. I actually.
We're not
I-
going to talk anything about anything that has to do with the legislature. We're
in the
gonna
Amalfi,
fill ourselves
in the
in.
Amalfi Coast.
Oh,
I
you
should say
know.
the Amalfi Coast was beautiful,
It's
and then
absolutely beautiful. Huh?
yeah,
Son of a gun.
yeah, it really was.
Right.
And I'll tell you, the train
Find
system.
the first place I ever found limoncello.
Oh, it's
It was
right there?
it's all, there were lemon trees everywhere. And I had a glass of limoncello. I said, you know, I'm an Irishman, you drink anything, okay? And I absolutely fell in love with it.
Yeah,
Absolutely loved it.
yeah, it was nice. People were friendly. Everything was.
You
Weather
get
was.
out to Cyprus? You didn't get out there?
No, didn't get out there.
But
And-
the Amalfi Coast, you are riding on the side of a cliff most
Yes,
of the time.
yes, you are.
Okay, all right.
You are.
Hey, folks, if you're bored with this, there's probably something else you could watch. In any event, we are catching up ourselves
So actually-
on where we have been. Okay?
Just to go back-
I took an overnight trip to Athol with my wife.
For the theater.
Yeah, the theater. Yeah.
So just to-
I
actually
think the
just-
theater in Athol closed in 1947. I think.
Just to go back for that day, what we talked about for the sewerage that was overflowed into the
Sure,
lake.
right.
So we ended up having a meeting with the administration,
Right.
and I was able to get in one of the bond bills
You got a ton of money for it.
$5 million bond authorization. So the administration has agreed to allocate at least $1 million for the first year.
Right.
And then hopefully, that's all they can do
See-
because we got a new administration coming in. So we got, so with help from the Lieutenant Governor's office and Rep. Kane, we were able to get that 1 million allocation. So
There we are. See, we're filling in on things that happened in August, folks. Where have you all been since August?
and see what else we doing. And also we actually did the economic development bill.
I
Well,
wanna-
we did a portion of it.
I want to talk about the $3.76 billion relief package,
Yes.
okay? House Bill 5374. Now this just clued me back in again. Is this the money that, this is not the money that Baker said, we got to go back and send money back to people because we wound up with a profit?
Yes and no.
Yes.
No, this
You are a politician.
this version that came out did not include it.
Right. Isn't this the one that you guys were all working on a package?
Yes.
Before all of a sudden, nobody in there knew, actually everybody knew, but nobody paid any attention to it, that the state auditor was going to give you a number and say, this is the number, and the law that you passed in 1980-something says you got to give it back to the people. And by the way, Virginia and I got it.
Yeah.
We got money back.
Yep.
I'm trying to think how much. It's like $1,100, $1,200.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So so basically the referendum, which the legislature, I don't know if you want to say the House or the Senate or whatever, the leadership at some point, I guess, missed the fact that we hit the benchmark
Right.
for the 1986 referendum,
Right.
which required this rebate.
Yep. Kick back the money you took. You took too much, give it back to us.
Now, when it became knowledge, that was after we had already passed this package.
Exactly.
So that would have added an additional, to this 3.76 billion, that would have added an additional $3 billion, 2.9 billion.
Exactly.
So what happened was,
But that money did go back. That was
Yes.
segregated out and
But-
got sent back to Kevin and Virginia Byrd.
well,
and Melissa, she got one too.
So what happened was when we eventually did do this economic development bill.
Yeah.
So the economic development bill had three components. The first component had to do with money coming back to cities, towns, to organizations dealing with economic development projects.
Right.
The second part of the bill was a bonding authorization.
Right.
The third part of the bill was the tax changes that we were recommending, which all went into this 3.76 billion.
Okay.
But we ended up session ended before we could do this.
Right.
So what happened was to do the bonding part of the bill, to do this whole bill, we would have had to been called back into formal session.
Right.
Now, myself, and actually I was able to get 14 other senators, that we wrote a letter.
You were going to do it.
Advocating that we go back in.
I saw that. You made the papers with that, sir.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Get us back and let's do this. Because you took a lot, I mean, the newspapers, you know, all the stuff that you guys did by the end of your session, okay, which was candidly substantial. You
Yep.
did a ton of work, okay, and a ton of good stuff that came out of the legislature, both you and the House, the Senate and the House, anyway. But you took all this heat, and they didn't even give all this money that, you know, they never got to it, and that was the most important thing. You know, it kind of angered me just a bit, but I knew that was what the media was going to do. They had to say something. You can't say anything good. Good news doesn't make the 5 o'clock the 5 o'clock television program really and truly. Okay. In any event, so this is it.
So what happened is we ended up passing
Right.
in an informal session
Right.
just the disbursement or the funding portion of the economic development bill,
Okay.
which was the money that we can go through some of the earmarks and things that money that we gave back to different organizations or
Right.
municipalities.
Right.
And we funded the $2.9 or $3 billion that the governor had identified in the auditor through that tax referendum. We did not pass the tax changes that the House and Senate voted on,
Okay.
or the bonding. That's why I said yes or no on this.
Okay.
We did pass $3 billion worth of tax cuts,
Right.
but it was targeted towards the tax rebate program that the administration identified from the referendum.
Right on.
So we now hopefully, I'm hoping that maybe hopefully early next year we can do another round, because we still, as of last month, I know we still had about $1.7 billion in federal money.
Oh, the federal bill.
Federal money.
I got
So,
you. Okay. Okay.
So I'm hoping between that and what we didn't spend here, what we didn't allocate here, we can come back and we can do the bonding, and we can do another tax package.
Okay.
So,
You were talking about earmarks, and Alex, I am madly in love. I got to meet Alex at some point. I've talked to him on the phone. Okay. He's very bright, very well spoken, and fortunately with me, a good sense of humor. Okay. And, you know, I always kid with him. I said, Alex, I need some stuff. He says, okay, I'll get right out to you. Okay, 16 pages worth of stuff. And I kidded with him at one point. I said, Alex, I got halfway through it, and I ran out of ink in the printer, okay? Pronounce Alex's last name for me and for the folks that are watching.
Mutafian. Mutafian.
Lutafian.
Mutafian.
Okay, all right. He's not Irish.
No.
Okay,
No.
all right. But,
No.
and he is your communications.
Yes, my media and communications, yep.
That's a good job.
Yeah. So when you see all the Facebook posts and all that thing, I don't do what former President Trump does or did. I don't do my own. I have someone do that to avoid making any sort of faux pas. So, and he does the press releases that we
I
do in
am
the
a
media.
Facebook peeper, okay? I love to see what people have created for dinner every night, and I love to see everybody's grandchildren who candidly look like everybody else's grandchildren. I shouldn't say that, but, you know, to me, you know, babies look like babies, okay? And I have to watch all of that sort of stuff, and I have to watch you everywhere, okay? He does a good job. You're all over that place.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. We
But I
try.
mean, that, you know,
But that's-
that
no.
is the world that we are living in.
Well, it is, and if you want to get out to people what you're doing,
Yeah.
and it's funny because we just had a conversation about this.
Shrewsbury's doing a whole lot. I mean, town of Shrewsbury's doing
There's a
whole
lot.
of
There's very few papers anymore, paper and ink.
Tell me about it.
The T&G, there's very limited. Everything seems to be AP, or
Right.
there's very few local things that we have there.
Right.
Um,
Right. Because
a lot-
they don't have any reporters anymore.
yeah. And then a lot of the local
Because
papers.
it's run by Gateway.
And all
You
the
know, it's
local
printed
papers
in
we-
Texas.
Gateway?
It's printed in Texas.
Oh, probably.
It's put together in Texas.
Well, and Gateway owned the T&G. It used to own the Millbury Sutton Chronicle. It bought up all the local papers around here,
Right.
and now even the local papers are even gone. So now it's really getting harder to identify the media outlets that we can
I know.
get the message out to
It's
people on what's being
unfortunate,
done.
and I know it's generational, and I know it's my age, but I am kinesthetic. I need the newspaper. when we're down the Cape in the summertime, I read 3 newspapers: the Globe, the Cape Cod Times, which is Gateway.
Yep.
What else? The Globe, and I go down to Cumberland Farm, so I get to do it myself, and I'll get the New York Times, okay, and that sort of stuff, and I love it. And I know none of my kids read newspapers. Melissa next door comes over, and I'll say, "I saw this in the paper." She says, "I know. I saw it this morning." And I said, "Where?" She said, "On my phone or my iPad or whatever." And there I am. The Telegram and Gazette. You know what I read it for now? The obituaries and the comics.
I didn't know they had comics though.
I'm still a comic person, okay? I grew up with them, and I'm still a grown-up person with advanced degrees. You know when they say how far, when you're doing a survey, where are you? I get on the right bottom and say, beyond college and beyond law school, okay? I'm just a beyond kind of person, and I still read Garfield, really and truly, and Doonesbury, who is very, very political. But that's about it. But I always read the obituaries because when I was practicing law, I did a lot of, wills, estate stuff. And I'm sure somebody in your office does it for you. You got to check the obits and find out, who has passed on, and that sort of stuff. Anyway, okay. One of the things, one of your local, we kept getting sidetracked, but I love getting sidetracked. One of our local earmarks tells me, Alex tells me, I found this fascinating. $75,000 to fund improvements to the facades of small businesses in Shrewsbury.
Yep.
I never even heard this. I know we now have a Shrewsbury Business Center Association, I think if the name is, and I apologize if that isn't the exact name, who just did a wonderful program on Saturday up at the Common, where they had a Yuletide festival.
Oh, okay.
Selling things and all of that.
Yeah, it's funny actually. So Shrewsbury, Millbury, and Grafton all had something Sunday.
Isn't it? Well,
Yeah.
this was Saturday because this was the rainstorm.
Okay.
The real rainstorm. But fortunately, Liz tells me they got a window and they were able to do all that. And the lighting is done, I think, by this business association in the center. It's
nice.
gorgeous. If folks are watching, if you haven't gotten up there, go out there, drive by it, walk by it. The lights on the Common are absolutely beautiful with the Congregational Church and all of that stuff. Anyway, but tell me about this program to improve facades.
This is where the town of Shrewsbury, when we had this, when we were discussing the economic development bill, we reached out to all our communities to get their input.
And this was one of
This
their
is one of the
suggestions.
initiatives that they came back with.
Was it from this? I know the town meeting created something called the Town Center District, a rezoning. We did it during one of the COVID meetings, one of the outside meetings one year, and kind of created it.
So basically, the town will get the $75,000. They'll be able to, the town, in conjunction with that committee, will be able to administer the funds, and they'll be able to work on the facade of the businesses and hopefully improve.
Oh, that'll be great.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
It needs some work.
So if you look at that as far as consistency, so we did that for the facades. Town of Auburn, we were able to get $100,000 for wayfaring signs and banners.
Right.
We did the same thing for
What's
Westboro.
Wayfaring.
Wayfaring,
Wayfinding.
wayfaring, finding. Thank you, wayfinding. They have signs that direct people to different
Oh,
points
way
of
to go.
interest in the community.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay.
What did I say? Wayfinding? Wayfinding. Wayfinding.
Right.
So we did that for West.
You can't say it 5 times a day.
Auburn and Westboro. Actually, for Worcester, myself, Senator Chandler, and Senator Goby were able to get $750,000 to fund improvements at the intersection of Ararat Street and C Street in Greendale. That's the old Norton project.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right over there.
All right.
So they're going to be doing
The
a lot of work
Ponset
there.
Street, that's where I go and see 500 doctors that want to see me on a regular basis.
Oh, really?
Reliant has, they took over one of those old
Oh,
factories
yes,
there,
yes, yep, okay, yep.
Right at Neponset Street.
Yeah.
And they're building, it used to be the mall next door. It is now the largest Amazon building I've ever seen in my entire life.
Really?
Truly, yeah, they knocked down the mall.
So it's actually, you know, it's interesting because Amazon is closing some facilities around the country.
Yeah.
But you've got that one coming in.
Yeah.
Westboro has the robotics center.
Amazing.
And they've got another facility already in there.
Yeah.
So
And is there another one down in Milford or something like that?
Maybe.
You know what? Liz is yelling at me, saying we have 1 minute and 26 seconds left, okay? Hey, Mike, you're
So-
back. We're back, okay? So let's keep going and keep doing this on a regular and consistent basis, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, Doreen is doing your planning for you.
Yep.
I will be on the phone, as Liz will be on the phone with Doreen, and we'll start going through some of this stuff, okay?
maybe we'll see if Liz can, or someone can just add the print to the show. So if people want to see what we did later on, they could.
Okay. All right.
We'll ask later.
That's showbiz.
Yeah.
She'll figure that out at some stage. Huh? In any event, our apologies if we did a lot of
Reminiscing.
nostalgia and reminiscing during the course of this program, but it's been August to now December, and we are approaching Christmas. We probably won't get a show in before Christmas.
So happy
So
holidays.
happy Christmas, happy holidays of all sorts, and please stay with us. We'll be back very, very frequently in the future. Have a good day and
Thank
a good
you.
night.